one of the main things Frank and I are trying to achieve is to add a variety of perspectives into our organization. The partners we work with, the people we hire, the program we present, more perspectives, and the idea is that this whole of perspective reflects society. Well, my name is Mijke Loeven. I'm 56 years old. I have twins, 24 years, 2 girls. I used to be a singer myself. I studied jazz at the Royal Conservatoire in The Hague, and I had a band and I toured, but that's a long time ago. I was in television for a long time, and I interviewed artists, which really formed my vision on art. My mother is an artist. She makes huge sculptures of steel and wood, and so it's always been about art in my life, and the power of art and the vulnerability of art at the same time. The vulnerability because of the honesty in art, but also the vulnerability in society. It's not a thing that is generally accepted as a fundamental human right. So I think of myself as a fighting machine sometimes for art. I went into jazz organization, I think in 2008. I became the director of a festival and of an organization in Rotterdam in the Netherlands that organizes jazz concerts in different venues in the city. And then in 2017, I've applied for director at the BIMHUIS, which is of course an honor, and I got the job. And I think it's sort of the time and the place that I could really turn everything I've learned and the vision I developed on art into a real organization, together with my team, of course. Well, I think BIMHUIS has always been a place where musicians can develop themselves. It's been founded by musicians in 1974, about a very activistic group of musicians. It has also had a political sense of using music to wake up the world, and so that is still there, I think. What we changed, and we is Frank van Berkel, the programmer, and me and the rest of my team, I think, is we try to bring the values of the BIMHUIS, which is development of musicians and international connection and brand, maybe whatever you might call it, and reaching audiences and new audiences. All these values were always there, but I think we've tried to bring it one step further. So, for instance, this artist development, before an artist would get an assignment and he could do whatever he wanted to do, and he get some money and just do it on stage. It was total freedom. And now we do the same thing, but we ask the artist to think about his story, about the narrative, so we can make a connection with the marketing department, and the marketing department has a story to tell, a real story to tell, to try and reach new audiences. So it's not just a musician number A who's presenting new music, but there's a story behind it. So little things like that, and in the end it's the same music, because music is sometimes an abstract reaction on society, but it gives us a better story, and I think that really works. It's also in the way we organized the BIMHUIS behind the scenes, with data analysis and yeah, it's become much more professional, I think, and much more about what works in this time. We worked on the socials, so we really invested in our marketing department, and things like more political things like diversity, getting women, presenting women in both marketing, on stage, giving more assignments to women, making that work, things like that. I think one of the main things Frank and I are trying to achieve is to add a variety of perspectives into our organization. The partners we work with, the people we hire, the program we present, more perspectives, and the idea is that this whole of perspective reflects society. Yeah, I think that's one of the main things that we really focus on. Something else that we did is we started in 2017 with a production house. It's called BIMHUIS Productions. It's a tool to get money from funds. I had this strange intuitive feeling that the money was there waiting for us. We only needed to try and get it. It worked. So we had this pandemic now, but after the pandemic, this production house is, sort of filled with funding for the coming years. So we can really help musicians to make new work, and we also could do that during the pandemic. We really want to invest in young people, in young generations, both musicians, both my team. I think the BIMHUIS is not mine. The BIMHUIS needs to be owned by the next generation, and it's my job to deliver the BIMHUIS in a very healthy, financially strong situation, so that the younger generation can bring it further. I mean, there's a huge legacy in 1974, so it needs to, move on for the next 100 years, I think, or more. I think, BIMHUIS has been founded by these crazy musicians in 1974 who thought that melody was something you should leave behind, rhythm, chords. It was total freedom. It was the instant composing on stage. It's the free improvised music with, wonderful people like Han Benning and Willem Breuker, Leo Kuipers, or Misha Mengelberg. And this scene, who started the BIMHUIS, became famous all over the world. Not so much in the Netherlands itself, but all over the world. And this way of approaching music is still to be found, I think, in the Dutch scene. But at the moment, I think the Dutch scene or the Amsterdam scene is so international, it's so diverse, and you hear electronic music, you hear modern composed music, Indian ragas, Moroccan music, all these things combined in the music of today in a very authentic way, I think. And something else is that the skill of musicianship is unbelievable. Yeah, I can really say that they're great musicians. It's more about what do you present as an artist? What is your voice? What do you want to say? It's more about making compositions, working with each other in this wonderful scene that's happening now, and less about just being good in your instrument. It's all about making music and inventing music. Yeah, it's a wonderful scene, and they come from Mexico, from Denmark, from Italy, and they all live in Amsterdam. Yeah, it's wonderful. I think this diversity of nationalities is really something specific for the younger generation, and they all bring their own music from home. Like Sun Mi Hong she's from the south of Korea. She brings her traditional instrument, and at the same time she's a fantastic jazz drummer. We're working now with Fuensanta Mendes. She's a singer and bass player and an activist, and she writes poetry, and she's from Mexico. And you can really hear these Mexican, voicings in her music. But at the same time, she worked with Guy Solomon, who's from Greece and Israel, and has more of, of this Yiddish. You can hear and it all blends together perfectly, and it's so interesting, and they're so professional. They play everything from heart, no sheet music. They practice like crazy. It's unbelievable. We're really spoiled as an audience. Well, when I started at the BIMHUIS in 2017, I had to take care of the finances first, and I had to rebuild the organization at the back office. So being here now and being part of EGN is really the next step to help promote that beautiful young and slightly older musicians. And of course the pandemic, interfered with that for more than 1.5 years. I would have loved to do it earlier. So the thing is that if we give an assignment in our production house for the musicians and that we support, of course we find it very important to share our network with them so they can build on their national career. It's something that has a high priority, I think, in our policy, but because of the pandemic, there are no real results yet. Of course, and that's why it's so important to be here and to meet all of you. I think that the network and sort of professional relationships and maybe friendships also had suffered really from this pandemic. It feels like we have to try and revitalize that network again, and so that's why it's so important. And I'm really grateful that you invited us to be here. Of course, it's fun, but it's really important for the younger musicians that we have a vital network and that we can share it with them.